Hello and welcome to a DFS preview for the 2022 John Deere Classic. My name is Eric and here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about trying to hit the optimal lineup every single week. And we start here with the preview video by looking at all the stats that are going to matter at this event. And I do that by looking at the bucket system. At least I show you guys which stats matter by looking at the bucket system. And if you're unfamiliar with that, I have a link in the description below that'll get you straight to a video that explains all about it. But the too long didn't read version of that is I analyze the top 10. I should say the bucket system is a tool that helps me analyze the top 10 of every single event dating back to 2013. And I primarily just look at this one dating back to 2013 to try to figure out which stats matter and apply it to this week's field. So it's just a kind of a fun way to let us know who to expect to be inside the top 10. And that way you can build your lineups based off of those expectations. I'm not only going to be talking about the bucket system, but I will also review last week's tournament, which just happens to be the Travelers Championship. This way I can show you how well the buckets did for last week, the whole sweet spot process in general, so you have a good feeling as to how well it's going to work this week. I'll also be looking at the tournament information as well as the golf course that's being played at this event. But first, there's a giveaway to run. If you followed me during the Travelers preview, I told you we were going to run this giveaway. We had already reached the goal of 400 subscribers. And as long as that stayed over 400, I was running this goal. And it was going to be worth $30. So hopefully you had an opportunity to subscribe and comment on the videos that I was posting this whole last week. That gave you entries into this giveaway. And if you didn't, don't worry. I continue to run giveaways every single week. We'll get to the one for this next week after I run this. But just to give you a heads up, I forgot to include Twitter shares during my last giveaway. So those are all added here. There's 36 in total. So hopefully if you were one of those that were expecting more of your entries to be included in the last giveaway, don't worry, you're right here. And again, it's my way to participate, or my way to reward all of you guys that participate. But outside of that, we had the US Open as well as the Travelers Championship, and we had 37 entries who all commented on my YouTube videos. So that's the other way you got entries into this giveaway. So we have 73 in total. Once I hit this little run contest, once I switch this to a Y, it's going to give us a winner. It's going to tell us which part or which video, I shouldn't even say video, but which part of the whole contest. That's also not how it goes. Basically, which part did you participate? It'll let us know that one. It was difficult to get to. But anyways, without further ado, our winner is Joe Nicely in the turn. He has already donated his winnings before, so I know he's going to want me to rerun this. Let me do it again. Nate Woods. Nate Woods, congratulations. You are the winner this week. I'll go ahead and put your name right here. I already forgot which video that was that it showed. You guys can pause the video to see, because once I type something in here and hit enter, basically the randomizer that I have on this giveaway is just going to update everything else. So that's, you're going to see Jim Lemoyne one. But go back, check out which part of the video that, or which video that Nate Woods commented on. You'll see how many entries he had as well. It pays to put as many entries into this as possible. Again, you get an entry every single time. I shouldn't even say that. Every video I put out, if you comment on it, you get one free entry. You can comment on one of my videos 100 times, but you're only getting one free entry per video. But it requires you to comment on it. So Nate Woods, I think, had 5 or 6 videos that he participated on, so he had 5 or 6 entries, whatever it ended up being, from my memory. But hey, Nate Woods, congratulations. Contact me through Twitter, through email. Let me know what way is the best way to pay you. Google Pay, PayPal, Venmo. I can do all of those, but go ahead and reach out to me. Let me know which works best for you. But going into giveaways, this next week's giveaway is worth $50. And here's what's going to do every single giveaway. I'm going to just go 50 subscribers every single new goal, or every new goal, I should say. So 450 subscribers is the new goal this week. It was 400 for the last goal. And once we hit 450, I'll move it up to 500. And I'm going to continue to do this every single week. So if we don't hit the goal of 450 subscribers this week, I'm going to shave $10 off of that. And basically whatever comes first, us getting down to $10 for the giveaway, I will run the giveaway that way, or we reach our goal of 450 subscribers. So it's really up to you guys. If you're watching this video and you're not yet subscribed, please do so. And if you want an entry into this giveaway, comment down below. This week, just give me your favorite play if you need a topic. Otherwise, you can leave whatever comment you would like. So if you want a chance to win $50, again, be subscribed and comment down below. I have a second giveaway. This is actually more of a rebate. This is like, you sign up on PrizePicks if you're a new user and you use the promo code SweetSpot and put an initial deposit of at least $20 in your account, I'm gonna give you $20 back. So it's like a rebate. PrizePicks will match your deposit up to $100. So if you do want to put $100 in there, I'm still going to give you $20 back, but PrizePicks will match your deposit. They'll give you another $100. That way you have $200 in your account and it only will cost you $80. But you can also play this for free by putting $20 in your account, sign up using the promo code SweetSpot, and then you get 20 from me. Then you'll have 40 in your account because of the deposit match, and it will only cost you that initial deposit and the sign up information. So again, there's a link in the description below. Highly encourage you guys to sign up. I'm also going to be providing a, let me get that off the screen. I'm going to provide a cheat sheet, which is going to look a lot like this. I have not yet updated it, but you will get this information on that cheat sheet. You'll get this DK page that has all of this information. There's a link in the description below for that cheat sheet. I just ask you guys to go to the file menu, come down to make a copy. That way you can use all the filters that I've applied to it, and you can also modify that spreadsheet however you'd like, if you'd like to. But yeah, go down and make a copy. That way you can hit the filters, because I use the filters whenever I talk through the spreadsheet. It'll also provide the bucket system, so I'll have all this information as well. So when we go through this part of the video, you can also apply all the filters that are on there. Highly, I mean, it's easy, and it's a good way to follow along with me when I go through this. So a cheat sheet, again, in the description below, a link for it, I should say. Go check it out. Let's go ahead and get into this video by going over a review of the Travelers Championship. And the first thing I'm going to actually talk about is going over the optimal lineup versus the GPP winning lineup. Of course, here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about the optimal lineup. So this optimal lineup was wonky. This tournament was wonky. Xander Schauffele won it over Sahith Theegala. If you didn't know, Sahith double bogeyed the last hole. Xander ended up birdieing it to win by 2 shots. You could say Sahith was going to par it. Xander would have birdied, you know, and it could have ended in a tie, and then they would go into a playoff. But kind of feels like Sahith lost this one. You just never know. You never know. Xander possibly could have birdied the last hole no matter what, but knowing that he needed to, maybe he wouldn't have. You never know. Anyways, that was kind of the whole tournament, was basically between Sahith and Xander. Patrick Cantlay, on the other hand, he was 1 shot behind to start the tournament, and then had a +6 round or something like that. It was bad. But anyways, I'm not going to get too much into the recap. 46,300 was the salary used to get to the optimal lineup, and it's all these golfers with the black tick marks next to their name. So it was Xander Schauffele, Sahith Theegala, JT Poston, Michael Thorbjornsen, Chesson Hadley, and Patrick Cantlay. So those are your 6 highest DK scores. That salary, again, used up 46,300, and it scored 681 points. The GPP winning lineup had, or basically all these golfers in blue, had Xander Schauffele, Sahith Theegala, Keith Mitchell, Patrick Cantlay, and then down here, Matthew Neesmith and Adam Long. So he only had, or she only had 3 golfers in their lineup that were inside the top 10. The rest of them were 13th or worse. It was still a good lineup. It scored 604 points. So it was pretty darn close to 80 points behind the optimal lineup. And it used up $49,900 of the salary. I created a sweet spot optimal, which usually would mean you need all 6 golfers inside the top 10, and the salary needs to be higher than $49,000. You can't do that this week, or this last week at the Travelers Championship. So I included 2 guys in 13th place. That would be Patrick Cantlay and Tony Finau. If you follow me every single week, I usually tell you to start with a 10-9-8, 7-7-6, and then you can make up to 2 substitutions. And usually you just want to go 1 price point up or down. In this case, if you were to start 10-9 and then go to 8, if you substituted 8, you could go back up to 10. But then I would say, you know, your 7 needs to be substituted down to 6, which you certainly can do. And I know I probably lost a lot of you guys, but anyways, your sweet spot optimal had 2 10K golfers, a 9K golfer, a 7, and 2 6Ks. That is extremely abnormal. This last week was one of those odd weeks that I don't think anyone was going to get to an optimal lineup no matter what. Now that sweet spot optimal used up 49,600 and it scored 664 points. So it's still 17 points behind the optimal lineup, but it still clears the GPP winning lineup by by 60 points. So, yeah, definitely could have built that way. I personally would have recommended that. I think we could have went like a 10-9-8. So I think like Keith Mitchell's a good 8K golfer to use. Obviously Sithith and JT Poston. So from here, all I need to do is find, let's see, we have a 10-9-8. Pretty low price. Like 7,800 would be great, but I think, so this is $200 over what we need. So we need someone at $8,400 or cheaper. I should say between 74 and 84. So we could have done it this way. You could have went Xander down to Tony Finau, then to Keith Mitchell, then to Kevin Kisner at 75, Sahith Theegala at 73, and then 6,600 for JT Poston, and that would have scored 641 points. So you still would have won a GPP, and you would have followed more of a traditional salary build. So that would have been more of my style. I probably would have went with that instead of what I highlighted, but it was doable. It was just a weird week. Going further into it, let's talk about the sweet spot ranks. So I have this sorted from top to bottom. So this is 1 through 20 you see on the first page. What I want to see is like 4 golfers in the optimal lineup. Instead, I have 2. I've got Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele. So 2 is good. That's basically my low end that I want to get to, but I want to get up to 4. So 2 is not terrible, and it's not, to me, it's not really a loss when it comes to what I expect, but all of the miscuts that I see, that in itself is a loss. Yep, there are quite a bit of top 20s, but there aren't a lot of top 10s. You know, in reality, we have 3 top 10s inside the top 20 of the rankings. I'd want to see like 5 or more. Now, not all golfers inside the top 10 are going to be in the optimal lineup, and that's fine, but I'd want to see at least 5. 5 in the top 10, and at least 4 optimal lineup golfers. So we don't see that, so the rankings were kind of just disappointing. I'll just flat out say it. Not what I was expecting, not what I wanted. Now, I use those rankings typically to go with the marquee tee times. And if you remember the rules here, I even tweeted it out. You want to grab 2 golfers out of the 4 that I will be highlighting. I see there was a withdraw somewhere, or I have a filter somewhere. Finau, Luke List. I feel like there was another 7K. Oh, that was Sung J Im's group. So it was Sung J, Tony Finau. Okay, okay. So that's not going to be a group of 3, but all the rest of these are groups of 3. And the whole strategy behind this is you want to grab somewhere between 2 to 4 golfers from the groups that I've just highlighted. So obviously you see Rory, Webb Simpson, Kevin Kisner's one group, and it goes down from there. Now, I only see one optimal lineup golfer in Patrick Cantlay. I don't see any of the other golfers here. Now, Xander Schauffele was originally in the marquee tee times, but he had 2 guys. He had Justin Thomas withdraw, and then I think he had somebody else withdraw in his group that were notable names. So Xander was no longer in the marquee tee times once those golfers dropped out, but he ended up being the optimal lineup. So I don't know, doesn't really quite work out for me. But here's what I'll say. Here's some consolation pieces. Cantlay and Neesmith were in the GPP winning lineup, so there's still 2 golfers that guy picked from, so it worked out. And then in the honorable mentions down here, Keith Mitchell was the 3rd. Another way to look at this, Patrick Cantlay is in the sweet spot optimal, as is Tony Finau. So if you started your lineups with Cantlay and Finau, it's not terrible. Now, you would have wanted Xander Schauffele to be in that lineup with you. That's not going to happen more than likely, because a $10,000 golfer with a 9K, if you're pairing those up, you're not really looking for another 10K. But we did talk about this during looking at the GPP winning lineup and the optimal. We're trying to figure out a more traditional build. Kevin Kisner was a part of that. So now we had 3 golfers. And I guess Patrick Cantlay would not have been included in that. It still would have been Tony Finau, Kevin Kisner, and Keith Mitchell was also the other guy that was a part of that. So very close. And if you grabbed the optimizer, Keith Mitchell would have been in that marquee tee times that the optimizer would have tried to pick. So it worked out that way. There was 3 golfers that the optimizer would have picked out. So technically it still works. Still works for us, because there's no way to get the optimal lineup. You know, leaving $3,000 on the table is never something that I advocate for. So it's not even something I need to worry about. So in a sense, the marquee tee times were successful. You still wanted to pick somewhere between 2 to 4 golfers within the marquee tee times to build your lineups around, and you also didn't want to grab a golfer from the same group. That also applies throughout the Travelers event. So I usually talk about the sweet spot ranks as well as the marquee tee times in the strategy video. That is also what I'll be doing for the John Deere Classic. So if you want this piece, you're gonna have to see in the strategy video tomorrow. Now, there's nothing else to talk about the Travelers. Oh, that's not true. The buckets. Obviously, talking about the buckets. So I track the success of the buckets from this section here within the bucket system. Anything that's marked with a Y means it was a success. And just so you guys know that logic, I track the top 10s for each of these buckets, which golfers were in the optimal lineup and which golfers were in the sweet spot optimal. And if any of these numbers are within the projections here, it's going to be a success. So as I scroll through this, you're going to see 2 buckets failed. The rest of them were successful, which just kind of goes with the same success rate that we've seen every single week. 34 to 36 buckets, that ends up being 94%. So we're still on that track of being 94% correct. The ones that failed were course history 5s, which were basically miscut every single time they've played, or pretty darn close to get to that 80 plus average finishing position. I only wanted somewhere between 0 to 1. Well, 4 ended up showing inside the top 10. 3 were in the optimal lineup, and 2 were in the sweet spot optimal. So this one failed big time. And I don't think I would ever get there, to be honest. And I'm not too concerned about that. The other one was the low 6K range. 3 were in the top 10, 2 were in the optimal lineup, and 1 was in the sweet spot optimal. Now, the 1 actually does match, and I wonder why. I have a formula up here. I don't think you guys can see. Okay, now it showed up. Interesting. We are not looking at the sweet spot. That's fine, I guess. Did we look at the sweet spot optimal with the other ones? No. Okay. That's fine. Just double checking to see. I would rather look at the optimal in the top 10, but this bucket did succeed when we do look at the sweet spot optimal. So we could say 35 out of 36 buckets worked, but really it's 34 out of 36. Okay, let's move on from the Travelers Championship and get into the John Deere. And we're going to start with the tournament information and the golf course information. John Deere Classic. This tournament was established in 1971. The golf course, however, was built in 2000 basically for this tournament. So all the years that this has been ran, it has not been at the golf course we'll talk about here shortly. Just, I mean, it's information for you guys to know. It has no bearings whatsoever on DFS golf. Silvis, Illinois, I believe that is really close to the border of Wisconsin and Illinois. I don't remember off the top of my head, but usually like Steve Stricker does really well at this tournament. He calls it home and he's a Wisconsinite, so I don't know. I forgot to look to see how close it was to the border. I'm feeling like it's pretty close. Field size 156 players. That's going to be normal with all of the all of the cut events here in the summertime, since the days are super long. They're going to get as many golfers as they possibly can into these tournaments. Top 65 in ties. Your average winning score is minus 21. It's been as low as 27 under, and it's been as high as, I think, 17 under. Let me double check. 19 for sure. 18 is the next one, so 18. So it can fluctuate, but it's going to be a low scoring affair, basically. So find all your good scoring golfers and build your lineups around them. Your average cut score is minus 3. So you can use those pieces of information with any of your websites that you use for research. I would definitely look at that. The strength of field is so pitiful. 54. The Corrales Punta Cana during the super season had a much higher strength of field than this tournament. The Palmetto Championship had a higher strength of field than this this tournament, and a lot of people are going to be making fun of it because you have the Live Tour event that's going to happen opposite of this event out in Portland that has a much higher strength of field. So it's one of those conundrums on the PGA Tour, like, what's the purpose of this event if we can't get our big names to come to this event? Because Webb Simpson is the highest golfer in the OWGR to be playing this week. He's 58th ranked in the world. It applies 5 points towards the strength of field for him, whereas I think the next closest person is Adam. Nope, it would be Sahith Theegala. He's 66th in the world, and he's applying 4 points towards it, but nothing better than that. It drops down to either 2 points or 1 point for most of these golfers, and again, it equals up to 54, so it's pretty bad. The weather looks like it's going to be pretty warm, and it's going to be a little windy on Thursday as opposed to Friday. So if there was ever a wave advantage, you'd want to check the weather Wednesday to see if this still holds up, and then play the wave that has the less wind on Thursday, or not so much play the wave. I always like to put a cap at 4 golfers per wave that I would actually choose from. Like, I always want at least 2 in the other wave. So I'm a proponent of choosing 4 p.m. golfers and 2 a.m. golfers, but I don't mind if it's 3 and 3, or even if it's 2 and 4 the opposite way. So that's kind of how I would want to build my lineups this week, regardless of how the weather splits are. But if there is one advantage over the other, that's where you'd want your 4 golfers that you're selecting from to be coming from. Or maybe 3 and then one additional one. No, that one makes sense. Maybe you'd grab 3 from that weather wave. Who knows? I should say who knows. It's up to you guys. Anyways, golf course, TPC Deer Run, Architect D.A. Weibring. I don't remember his name being on any of the other tournaments, so I don't think it's really worth mentioning. I don't think it's that big of a deal. The par 71, 7,200 yards, so it's pretty average on tour when it comes to yards per par. Greens are bent grass, fairways are bent grass, and then your rough is Kentucky bluegrass as well as fescue. Use all of those data points for your research. I would just look at bent grass putting as well as bent grass approach. Maybe mix in Kentucky bluegrass and fescue. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's just bent grass all the way. Now you can see the shot shapes that I have right here. The shot shapes required. You can see off the tee as well as approach. Looks like those, it looks pretty even. You have 4 different shots that require draws. You have 5 different shots that require fades. Steve Stricker has won here a bunch of times. He draws the golf ball. Zach Johnson does really well here. He draws the golf ball. Let me double check on some of these other ones. Lucas Glover won last year. He draws the golf ball. Bryson DeChambeau has won here. He draws the golf ball. Ryan Moore has won here twice. Or no, he's won here once, dating back to 2013, and he has a second place finish one other time. He fades the golf ball. Jordan Spieth has won here. He draws the golf ball. It is, I mean, Justin Thomas has played here before. He's finished 5th. Daniel Berger's finished 5th. They all fade the golf ball. So it's really, I think it's a good representation. You know, the shot shapes required versus what type of golfers usually do well here. Maybe a good mix of draw golfers and fade golfers, or just ignore it completely. I don't know if there's a true advantage one way or the other. Again, it looks very similar how many different shots that you need here. Perhaps a Bubba Watson would do really well here. Someone who shapes the shots or shapes the golf ball both ways, but he obviously is not. So yeah, do with that information as you will. I don't think it's really a huge deal. I don't think there's really an advantage here. It just seems that a lot of the winners draw the golf ball. But I'll leave that up to you guys to choose what you'd like to do. Let's go ahead and get into the buckets. So if you're following along with me, you can go ahead and put a filter on this. I hid all of these other pieces of information. You will get with the cheat sheet basically column Z all the way back. So you'll get cut made frequencies, all that stuff. I think maybe I'll add this at some point in time, but I don't think it'll be for this tournament. But I'm gonna hide this information right here. Actually, I'll hide this as well as this. We don't need to see that right now. I guess I'll hide optimal lineups as well. Okay. We're gonna go. Remember, there are 6 stat categories: last year, last week, course history, recent form, salaries, and strokes gained. We're gonna clear this out and look one by one each of these stat categories with the buckets that are inside each of them. So there's 6 buckets per stat category. When we look at last year's finishing position, so we are looking at the results from 2021 and looking only at the top 10 finishers. We're looking at what their stats were from the year before and applying it to this week's tournament. With that being said, you can see how many golfers there are in each of those buckets this year. Basically, how many do we normally see every single year? And then I also added strength of field points to each of those and what percentage that represents for the entire field. So each of these buckets looks at all this information, looks at the success rates that we see these golfers in inside the top 10. It also looks at how many golfers are in that bucket this year, because some of these are volume driven, and the more numbers, obviously, the better chance we're going to see a top 10. But then I do include strength of field to come up with a projection. So here's our minimum projection, our maximum projection. The rule is these numbers you always round up, these numbers you always round down. So the minimums you round down, the maximums you round up. So this very first bucket, the last year ones, last year one, is that 1 to 20 range. So whoever finished inside the top 20 from last year, we are projecting somewhere between 0 to 2 of those golfers finishing inside the top 10. So it's not a guarantee, it's not a lock that a golfer from this bucket will be inside the top 10, but it's somewhere between 0 and 2. So you can either choose 1, 2, or 0. 0 to 1 golfers in that last year bucket 2, which is the 20 to 40 range. 0 to 2 as well, or 0 to 2 for the 40 to 60. 0 to 1 for that 60 to 80. We have 7 golfers in that bucket, so I would just avoid this one altogether. Golfers who missed the cut last week, projecting 1 to 3 of those guys, and we do have more than we see on average, so it's probably what's bumping it up a little bit. But your number 1 bucket are golfers who did not play last year in last year's event. This could include rookies. This could also include veterans that have played this tournament before, that do have course history. This bucket doesn't let us know all of that information. I'm just letting you guys know you want somewhere between 2 to 5 golfers who just didn't play last year. That'll be better off for you to build your lineups around. When we go to the next bucket, the last week buckets, it's the same thing, follows the same way or the same ranges as the last year buckets. Every 20th place finish, you can see that through the ranges here, and this would be at the Travelers Championship the week before. So with that being said, again, look at your bucket totals, how many we have on average. Obviously we have far less top 20s from the week before in this tournament this year. We have so many more did not plays, and you can see every one of these buckets is nearly 0 to 1 what we're projecting inside the top 10, except for the missed cuts from last week. It's not a bad bucket to choose from. It's also not an anchor bucket that you absolutely want to build your lineups around. Just saying, you can build up to 0 to 2 or have 0 to 2 golfers from that range in your lineup. So really, 27 golfers from the Travelers Championship are playing in the John Deere Classic this week. It's not a lot. We see more golfers usually on average from playing from the week before heading into the next tournament, but not at the John Deere Classic, probably because it's not a really great tournament that golfers want to go to. Your number 1 bucket by far is golfers who didn't play last week. So we've already learned choose golfers who didn't play last year at this event, and now we're also learning pick golfers who didn't play at the Travelers last week. So you can combine those to build lineups from, but it's not a foolproof science. So it wouldn't be something I would highly suggest, but I mean, I'll have probably like 3 golfers that didn't play last year and didn't play last week in my lineup. Probably max it or cap it off there. Going into the next bucket, the course history buckets. This is also going by every 20th point place, but it's average. Their average finishing position dating back to 2013 at this event. So my data goes back to 2013, and it's their average finishing position. Now, again, you can see your bucket totals for this year, averages, and as we go down this, 0 to 1 golfers who have really good course history, so averaging a top 20 basically at this event dating back to 2013, probably don't want to play there. And then the rest of them are pretty equal. There's basically 2 anchor buckets you want to choose from. Golfers who've just never played this event ever is one of them, and then golfers who have that 40 to 60 average finishing position here. So course history is not looking like it matters that much this week. This is probably the worst I've ever seen this, if I'm being quite honest, where you have this high of a projection inside the top 10 for did not plays, and then it's like just poor course history where you're gonna find most of your golfers inside the top 10. And it's pretty equal when it comes to most of these buckets with how many golfers are in them, but it's just doesn't prove that really good course history matters. Plus, we don't have a lot of golfers that do have good course history. Yeah, it's not something to hang your cap on. So I wouldn't really care too much about course history, but here's what I will say. Make sure you cap how many golfers you're picking. There are 3 golfers in this course history 1 bucket. Only pick at most 1. There's 23 in that 20 to 40 range. At most, pick 2. That's what I like about the buckets. Not only does it let us know how many we should be picking from it, but it caps them off. It caps them off at the back end, and the front end, it's telling you should play X amount of golfers. So if we do have an anchor bucket like this one, I'd be telling you you want to play at least one, but no more than 3. So hopefully you guys understand that. If not, email me with any questions or comment down below. I'll answer them there as well. When it comes to recent form, we have 0 golfers that have that top 20 average finishing position for the last 7 weeks, because that's what my recent form is looking at, is the last 7 weeks. What is their average finishing position? And then golfers are put into each of these buckets according to their recent form. By far, the best bucket is that 40 to 60 range. This is your middling recent form. Now, there are only 8 golfers that have a recent form better than 40th place. That's insane. That's crazy. Only 8. And from that bucket, you only want 0 to 1 or 0 to 2. So recent form 2 is that 20 to 40 range. We have 3 golfers in the 9K range. So you might just only want to pick 1 golfer from that at most, because we might have 2 that are at a high salary. So yeah, recent form 3, that one has a projection of 3 to 6. Remember, we're always rounding up with this one. Doesn't matter how small this number is, you always round up. So 3 to 6. And then recent form 4 is that 60 to 80 range, somewhere between 1 to 4. You want to be selecting 1 to 4 golfers who have an average finishing position over the last 7 weeks between that 60 to 80 range. And then just fill in the rest with the other buckets. Skipping it from here, we go to salaries, which I'll also include optimal lineups, past optimal lineups with. What it looks like here, we don't have a lot of golfers in the 10K range or the 9K range. Most of them are in the 8K, 7K, and 6K ranges, which makes building lineups really weird. Let me just double check this. 4 golfers. Yeah, this is insane. This makes building lineups really weird. I wouldn't be surprised if the optimal lineup was like $41,000. Like it used up $41,000 of the salary and left $9,000 on the table. There are no anchor buckets except for the 7K range. You want to select at least 2 7K golfers in your lineup, and you can play up to 4. And then the rest of these ones up here at the higher salaries are like somewhere between 0 to 2. 9K range is probably the least confident range, but also so is the 10K range. Like I'm looking at this minimum projection number. Those are both pretty low. I mean, the high 6K range has a higher percentage to finish inside the top 10, basically, than the other 2 buckets. That's insane. That's crazy. So when it comes to salaries, hard to figure out. Now, when we go back to 2017, looking at our optimal lineups, or our past optimal lineups, this one left $400 on the table, and it included 3 7K golfers, an 11K, a 9, and a 6K. So there's 3 7s there. Remember, this year, somewhere between 2 to 4. In 2018, the optimal lineup left $2,000 on the table. I did include a realistic lineup that would be, I don't like to leave more than $1,000 on the table, so I always look for a realistic lineup to be over 49,000. But your optimal left 2,000 on the table, and that included an 11K, 4 7Ks, and a 6K. So again, projecting this week, somewhere between 2 to 4 7K golfers. But you'd substitute 2 of those 7s with 2 8Ks to get to a more realistic lineup. So I always say start 10-9-8, 7-7-6, and substitute up to 2 numbers. I wouldn't substitute more than 2 numbers. And what I mean by that is you start with that traditional lineup that I told you and say you didn't like anyone in the 9K range. Well, substitute up to a 10K or substitute down to an 8K. And maybe you didn't like anyone in the 8K. Substitute that 8 up to a 9 or substitute it down to a 7. However it works out when building your lineups. But I said you can move 2 numbers. So whether that's moving a 9 up to another 10, and then also moving an 8 down to a 7, or maybe down to a 6, that is what I mean when I mean move 2 numbers. But anyways, I always like to start 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. This week might be different though. Might be 10, 8, 7, 7, 7, 7. Possible. Or it might be just 9, 9, 7, 7, 7, 7. Who knows? In 2019, your optimal lineup left $1,600 on the table. That had 3 7Ks, 6K, 10K, and a 9K. So again, start 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. We substitute an 8K for another 7K. That got you your optimal lineup. Your GPP winning lineup left $0 on the table, and that included a 10K, actually 2 10Ks, an 8K, a 7K, 6K, and another 7K. So again, we had a couple 7Ks there. Now I included a realistic optimal, which included all golfers inside the top 10. That was a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 7. So again, make one of those substitutions and it works out. In 2020, the tournament was canceled because of COVID, but in 2021 it picked up again. Your optimal lineup left $0 on the table, used up all 50,000. A better field, I feel like, but you had a 8K, 9K, 8K, 8K, 6K, 8K. So 4 8K golfers, 1 9K, and 1 6K. That's insane. Your GPP winning lineup, 8, 9, 8, 7, 9, 7. So 2 9s, 2 8s, 2 7s. And that's kind of also what I've been preaching when it comes to which types of salaries you want to build your lineups with. The last bucket to talk about is the strokes gained bucket. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this, I just highly recommend you go watch the video that I have for the bucket system, but I break down my strokes gained stats into different categories than what most people do. I kind of ignore approach and I really just focus on off the tee and putting, because everything strokes gained stats starts with off the tee. Wherever that ball is put into the fairway determines how well your approach stats can be. And if we're being honest, if you're using the average proximity marker, if everyone drove it like Bryson, everyone would have negative approach stats. Pretty darn close when it comes to average proximity. But that's not how it works. No one drives it like Bryson. Everyone has their different advantages. But anyways, when it comes to my strokes gained stats, again, everything starts with off the tee. So if every stat is positive, I'm only projecting 0 to 2 golfers from that bucket to be inside the top 10. There are 5 in that bucket this week, and 4 out of those 5 golfers are 9K and above. So when that happens, I kind of drop down that minimum down to 0, but it's already down, not down to 0. I drop it by 1, but it's already down to 0. So I'm telling you right now, 0 to 1 golfers, you probably want to select one of those strokes gained 1 golfers and put it in your line, but not 2. It might be a little too difficult, or maybe it won't be this week because salary building is going to be really weird. You might want 2 10K golfers or 3 9K golfers, and that would all fit this, I'm sure. I mean, if we take a quick look, here are your 5 strokes gained 1 golfers: Simpson, Hadwin, McNeely, Bezadenhout, and Cameron Davis. So yeah, you could build lineups with those guys for sure. I mean, you could stick Webb Simpson with Adam Hadwin, or start with Webb and go to McNeely or Bezadenhout. You could certainly do that. Your number 1 bucket you want to be choosing golfers from is the strokes gained 3, and that's positive off the tee, negative putting. So this is basically team no putt. Find your golfers that are really good off the tee, also probably really good with approach, and their putting stats are negative. It's really the only anchor bucket of the strokes gained buckets. Everything else is 0 to 2 or 0 to 1. You can see that all right here. So it's really up to you guys how you feel like you want to build, but I gave you all of your parameters basically. Again, max projections telling you don't play more than what number you see in those bucket projections. Minimum is, play at least this many. We always round down with this bucket. Minimums, we always round up. So anything that starts with a 0 is just a 0, basically. Anything that's 1-to-1 like this here, since this isn't a 2, like when this rounds up to a 2, since it's not greater than 2, this drops down to a 0. So it'd be 0-2, 0-2, and I've learned to do this over the years because it's too narrow of a projection. You kind of always want a 2-point buffer, so allow the max go up and then, you know, drop 2 points down for your minimum, essentially. Probably confuse some of you guys, but just take my word for it. It's like I said, doing it this way, 94% success rate. I kind of anticipate we're going to see that success rate this week as well. So again, hopefully you guys follow that. Leave any questions in the comments down below if you were confused by this, or email me. I have several people who email me every week that are like, hey, can you explain this a little bit more to me? And I'm more than happy to. It's all about just making all of us better at this DFS game. I'd love to hear any of you guys hit it big. This last week at the Travelers Championship, it was close. I finished 6th place in a winner take all for $2,000. I was really hoping to be coming on this show and being like, hey, we won again, another big winner, but unfortunately it didn't happen. It was really close. It was a fun sweat. So hopefully we can kind of replicate that this week. And I don't care if it's me. I hope it's one of you guys. It'd be great. Share your stories if you do, though. If you do hit it big and you are following, you know, the bucket system and everything, you're using the cheat sheets, I want to hear all that stuff. So, which reminds me, giveaways, $50 this week. If we can get 450 subscribers. If we don't by the end of the week, I'll rerun this giveaway next week. All your entries from this giveaway will go into next week's giveaway, and instead of $50, they'll be worth $40. And I'll keep shaving $10 until we hit our goal, or the giveaway is worth $10, whatever comes first. And then I'll run the giveaway during that next preview. And if you have an entry into this, it'll be a part of that giveaway. So again, if you want an entry, be subscribed, comment down below, give me your favorite golfer you're going to play this week, or just anything. You can comment anything. And if you want an additional entry, share it on Twitter. So I'll be posting this on Twitter pretty soon. Go ahead and share it there. You'll get an additional entry that way, just like you saw at the beginning of the video when I did run that giveaway. And of course, Prize Picks. If you've not yet signed up on Prize Picks, there's a link in the description. Sign up, put $20 in your account, use the promo code SweetSpot. I will give you $20 back. Simple as that. Prize Picks will match your deposit. So then you'll have $40 in your account, and it will be free of charge, basically. Just that initial deposit. And that's it. Again, I should say cheat sheet. In the description, there's a link. Get you straight to the cheat sheet. Make a copy of it, and then you can follow along with this. I will have a strategy video out tomorrow. You can follow along there as well. That's all I have for you guys. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.